Okay, YouTube, thanks for tuning in. What I've got here is something that quite frustrated me for a while, but I finally got it accomplished, so I thought I'd make a quick video on it. Probably won't be that quick. I always say quick, but it turns out being 15 minutes. So if you don't have that sort of time, what we have here is the Quantum WISP with the Quantum Pico. You can see the board in there. It's actually, the sticky tape is not very good. I have to change that out yet. Just got this running. The Quantum Pico board, which is a brushed flight controller board with a receiver already built into it. So if you have something that's DSM-2 compatible, you can fly this. This is the recommended motors from Quantum or HobbyKing. They're all HobbyKing parts for the most part. These are listed at 8 by 20 millimeter motors, but they're actually 8.5. You can see the tiny antenna down in there. Hopefully that's coming in the shot. Mine's all bent up because I had a lot of movement. I used just a battery I had laying around. This is a 380. It gets me at least 3 minutes of flight time. I didn't have any problems. I've also got the 60 millimeter props, which do clear, but you'll note on mine that I have the motors pushed up quite a ways. I'm not sure if that's where mine are going to stay, but that's where I'm starting at because I wanted to use the bigger props, and I'm not even sure bigger props are the way to go. I've got some Hubsan props on the way. We'll see what those are like. And that's the beauty of this, is that this actually has a flight controller that you can connect to through CleanFlight, and you can do some tuning and changing different characteristics. So for something this size, this is fairly odd. And as speaking of size, you know, that's my hand. This is the Devo 7E. That's the size. It's really small. It's 110 millimeters, I believe. Comes in about $12 or something like that. I'll link the frame and the flight control board. The motors, or if you click the accessories tab, if you scroll down on those pages, you'll find those as well as props and any other thing you might want. On their site, you know, unless you get a ruler out and you get 110 millimeters, it's a little bit hard to tell how far that is. They have a little, oddly enough, they have this little pencil in the picture they put by it, and it looks like a little carpenter's pencil, if you're familiar with those. But it doesn't give you a great representation of the size. So let me move this out of the way, see if I can keep this in the shot. This is also from HobbyKing. This is the Quantum Axe. It is 180 millimeters, so I'll give you some idea of the size difference. This, of course, will be a brushless setup. Let's see, what else can I show you? This is kind of a project, but if you're familiar with the toy quads, this is the MoldKing 33041. Obviously, it's substantially smaller. And lastly, okay, yeah. And this is the ZMR 250. So 250, 110. See if I can get my hand out of the way. You can see that a little bit. So there's a big size difference. So in flight, it's a lot less forgiving as well. But it has a flight controller that runs CleanFlight, where it's CleanFlight compatible. It comes pre-installed. That you can set different levels. Whether you do angle mode or if you're doing horizon mode, which in CleanFlight, angle mode is what you would call manual or acrobatic mode, and horizon mode would be self-leveling. I had a lot of troubles getting this to arm with my Devo 7, and I got a lot of help from people in the RC groups. We tried a lot of different things, and for me what it ultimately came down to was not actually using the basis of CleanFlight, but was to flash BetaFlight within CleanFlight. Now BetaFlight is the programming work of Boris B. If you look him up on YouTube, you'll find a lot of his videos. I think his YouTube main is either Boris and then the letter B, or it's Mr. BetaFlight possibly. Sorry, I should have had that before I started recording this. But this is his brainchild. The BetaFlight is, and I'm going to show you my transmitter a little bit. So if you do get one of these and you do get a 7E, which, you know, is great if you're moving from, you know, toy grade quadcopters into something a little bit more serious, you might have a Devo 7E, and you can see mine's modded. It's got the NRF 24L01 chip in it that makes it compatible with a lot more toy quads. But it seems like there's something in CleanFlight that, when it comes to the settings, weren't just quite compatible with my Devo 7. And I am running the latest version of the deviation software, and I did actually change the scale on it to match what several users said, but I just didn't have any luck. So we go into the model menu, look up mixers here, look at throttle. Throttle and yaw are the most important ones. So reverse is off. We go clear down to where our values are. Min and max really don't make much difference. It's the scale that you want to look at, and I have mine set at 147. That's what they're currently at. I don't have any sub trim. And this was actually my setup after struggling with CleanFlight. Before I flashed BetaFlight, I didn't change my TX settings at all. So I just flashed CleanFlight. I did a couple things through CleanFlight that are required to set it up, and went forward. Let's take a look. Aileron, you can see, is reversed. That's why it has the exclamation point. And we've got the scale 147 as well. You can pause this if I'm going too fast. Elevator, not reversed, 147. Max limit's 150. Rudder, reversed. Min and max limits 165 really don't make a difference, because my understanding is the min and max limits just limit what you can, how far up or down you can go with the scale. So scale at 147 there. And scale at 147 within CleanFlight, when you're looking at the receiver tab and the values, you want your throttle to go from about 1,000 to 2,000. Some say it has to go precisely from 1,000. I couldn't get it there. I could get it within 2 on both ends. So I could get like 1,000 and then 2,002 on the top end when I go all the way top. Or I could get 999 on the bottom end and then get 2001 on the top end. Something like that. That's as close as I could get it. And something else that I noticed with this that was problematic for me, and I'm probably making something of nothing, but if you push the throttle all the way over the side, it's going to be really hard to see this on camera, if at all. Once you get to this edge, it you could feel it, it bumps up just a touch, and that changes your values kind of dramatically within CleanFlight. It bumps up right at the edge. So I thought, in my infinite wisdom, that I would just untake the screws, or take the sticks off here. And that does flatten it out, but there's still just a little bit of play in that corner. It's not as though it's an actual square. It's close. It's closer without the plastic sticks on. Anyways, that was something that drew my attention. Turned out it didn't matter at all. I will link down below to some notes that I made, and I may link to some notes that I found in the RC groups that are the basis of getting this thing set up. But my main recommendation is going to be that if you're running a Devo 7, and if you have any troubles, go ahead and give CleanFlight a try. If you're familiar with it, maybe you can make it work where I couldn't. Give it a try, get it set up like you want, and fly from there. Just to show you what things look like. So I've got mine set, I believe I've got the hold switch to arm and disarm this. So let's make sure that my sticky tape is not great. Like I said, I'm going to have to remount this, get some different servo tape or something. So red light is bound, flashes when it's not bound. And that's something else with CleanFlight. I had troubles binding. Every once in a while, or if I didn't have it plugged in for a long period of time, it would take a minute before it would bind. And sometimes it wouldn't bind at all. I'd have to go into the menu and hit the bind button, if you're familiar. I have to go down here and then hit bind to get that to bind. green light here is flashing. That's indicating it's not armed. So I've got mine, sorry, my switch is up, so it's not armed. So we've got the red light. Green light flashing means we're not armed. Blue light over here. Hopefully you can see that if I got that in your... The blue light there indicates that you're in horizon mode or self-leveling mode. And I do have the props up high. I think I may have mentioned that previously. I have some plans to use either some shoe goo to make a cap for the motors and maybe bring them down. I might not be able to run these props for long, but that's not a real big concern. I just wanted to try them out because I paid for them. And the legs I made just because I didn't want, you go outside and if I take a sliding crash, I don't want it really sliding along these wires that I have along the bottom. And you can make this tidier if you wanted, of course. And I may. So let's arm. So you probably can't see that. And then we'll give it a little throttle here. Ooh, it's wanting to lean pretty heavy. I think my board's not level at all. I probably need to recalibrate. So that shows you that it does work. And it's a pretty cool little flyer. I haven't flown it too many times, probably about 6 batteries or so. Go ahead and disarm. And it's pretty fun. I've got a gnarly FPV backpack that I'll sit right up front. It weighs 6 grams. Oh, I should show you the weight. The all-up weight of this with a cheapo, let's see, what size battery? I believe this is a 380. And this is probably from some other toy quad I had laying around. As a matter of fact, I'm sure it is. So we lay that on there. 47.1. And show you how much that battery weighs by itself. That battery weighs 10.9. I have some 500 batteries, so 14.7. Oh, here's some I have yet to try yet. These are Nanotechs from HobbyKing 750s. Let's see what they weigh. 19.6, so pretty good. Let's go back here. 19.5. So about 5 grams more between these two and 250 milliamps. I also have this giant thing, and I can't remember how or why I bought this, but I don't even know if it works, quite frankly. I haven't plugged it into anything. But it's a 1000 milliamp, if you can see that. It's 27. So that probably will never see the light of day, at least on this little guy. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is I'll pause this portion, we'll jump over to the computer, and I'll show you CleanFlight real quick. Unfortunately, I can't show you how to exactly how the reflashing process for BetaFlight goes, but I'll try to sum that up for you. And then the settings that you'll need to get going. And when I say settings, there's a couple things you have to change in order for your receiver to show when you change values with your sticks that it reflects on the CleanFlight app. And then the arm and disarm modes, I can show you that as well. But it's very few settings that you need to actually change. I think many people have problems binding. I've heard there was one guy reporting on, I presume it's a guy reporting on RC groups, that his will bind quicker if he warms it up with a heat gun. In my case, I saw some slow binding as well, and I think BetaFlight, there's some magic in there that I would use. Okay, so let's jump over to the computer and I'll show you CleanFlight. Here we have the CleanFlight app on the desktop. And this runs as an app through Google's Chrome browser. You can go to the Google, the Chrome web store, and you can download CleanFlight, set that up. It's very straightforward. Just have to click Add. You'll also find instructions on the CleanFlight website. Let's go ahead and plug this in. You see up here at the top, I've got Auto Connect selected. COM1, which was by default for me. I didn't have to change that at all. Plugging in the board. And here we've got our model. I move it around a little bit. We see that its accelerometer and gyros are all working normally there. You can see everything move, change directions. That's all fine and good. It's kind of what we expect. The first things we have to go through, and like I said, I'll link to these instructions, and I may include some additional instructions, mainly on BetaFlight. We don't have anything we have to change here. We have a backup and restore feature. That can be quite handy. As you see, my board is drifting here for some reason. Maybe my legs aren't quite flat. I might need to recalibrate that accelerometer there. Let's just move forward. On the ports tab, we need to change UART2 to where it says serial RX. What you see on UART1, just make sure yours match. I did not change those. That was by default in both CleanFlight and BetaFlight. On the configuration tab, you see you have normal quad set up. Make sure you have motor stop selected. That was on by default. One shot and disarm motors regardless of throttle value. Those should all be selected as you see. The values you see here, those are specific to BetaFlight. They were different under CleanFlight. If we scroll down, we need to make sure that RX_serial is selected and Spectrum 1024 is also selected. All the other values you see here on screen are the defaults, the failsafe included. So you can pause this video to take a look at these closer. PID tunings, I have selected LuxFloat, and these are the values. I believe I got these in a combination of two different users on RC groups. I've mainly just flown it around. I really haven't messed with tuning too much, and it works pretty well. The main things that you're going to be changing here is your roll pitch rates and also your proportional, your PIDs. On the receiver tab, hopefully I'm bound, and it looks like I am. If you're bound and you're plugged in and you have your receiver on, you see that you get value changes. And all these you want at about 1500 at their midpoints, and you want them at about 1000 and at about 2000. So you can see those things all move around, and then you want to be able to see your switches moving around. You can select your switches to do something like flight modes. You can also select your switches to arm and disarm, and you'll see that in the mode section. And here I have mine set up, and right now with the F mode selected, I have at the 0 position, it's in horizon or self-leveling mode. And if I switch it down, it goes to angle mode. Let's see if the arm, for whatever reason, the arm is not working. It works when it's unplugged, though. But this is about what you'd want to replicate on yours if you're running a Devo 7 and you have this board. Oh, let's see, what else? Let's see. Radio setup. Did I do all those things? Receiver tab. Oh, I missed this back in the receiver tab. That you do want to have this TAER1234 selected as your radio. That will ensure that you get movement with your sticks. If you're not getting movements with your sticks, double check that. And that should be all set. You do want to make sure that you have your motor PWM. I'll show you the CLI. This is the command line interface for CleanFlight. And let's see, if we do a dump, which just shows all the settings on the board, and this is going to look like you drop back 15 years, but this is how it works. Let's see, where are we at? This is about where all the settings are that matter to us in this particular case. The things that I've tinkered with, but I didn't for this setup, was min check. Min check in CleanFlight was 1100, or sorry, CleanFlight was 1000. In BetaFlight, it's 1100. Max check, I believe, was 2000 in CleanFlight, and it's 1900 in BetaFlight. And you can see if I scroll all the way up here to the top, this is version BetaFlight NAS, and it gives you the date. This is the most recent version that I downloaded, and I'll step back and I'll show you how to flash it. We won't go through it because I don't want to lose all these settings, and it is working. But let's go back into the settings that matter. Min and max throttle. The min throttle under CleanFlight was 1,000 and max was 2,000. Here you see 1150 and 1850 for BetaFlight. Minimum command is 1,000, and that was the same as well. The thing that you want to change on this is if we go to motor PWM rate. When you flash, you'll probably find that that value is around 400, something below 1,000 probably. If you plug it in for the first time through CleanFlight, I think you'll find it at either 16,000 or 32,000, and that's fine. But if you either reset your board or you flash a different version, you may find that that's changed, and you'll need for brush motors for that to be at 32,000 to get full use out of your motors. And how you do that is pretty simple. Set motor PWM underscore rate equals 32,000, and then you hit enter, and then you type save. You see it says rebooting. It flashes real quick, and you can now leave this because your settings have saved, and you can see on the board the board flashing that it has saved those settings. It does take a moment, at least in my computer, to switch out of the CLI into one of the other tabs. And each time I do this, I have to hit CLI in order to make that arm show green. And I'm not sure why. That's just one of the things that has confused me a little bit. But that's pretty much everything that you would need to do within CleanFlight to get it running. Technically, to get it running. And in this way, you can arm with either the yaw, which is down and right to arm, down and left is disarm, or that's your throttle stick, excuse me. So throttle, down and right to arm, down and left to disarm. Or you can use the switch. I've got both set up right now to work for me. Just wanted to make use of the switches, I guess. Now let's step back. Let's disconnect, and I will show you the firmware flasher, which is self-explanatory. Now when I did it, I did a full chip erase. You can see that it saved my selection from the last time, and we click load firmware, and then it's got in brackets local. I've already got it downloaded. Obviously you would need to put it somewhere. So we see BetaFlight here. We click open. You see it's going to load the local firmware, and we might get an error here because I've already got it in there. But after you do that, then you click connect, and then your board will then run CleanFlight or BetaFlight within CleanFlight. And you can verify that by dropping down to the CLI and typing dump. So that's really all there is to it. There's nothing more. I hope everybody has much more success. I bet you I must have spent 10 or 12 hours in CleanFlight before finally, in a last-ditch effort, I switched over to BetaFlight, and it worked right away for me. And that's awesome. When you have that moment where it just works, you're quite happy. So let's kind of review here what we've got for a cost. Let's say your props. Let's say you buy some props and they're for a set, they're $4. Then you've probably got a battery laying around that you can use. You can acquire other batteries if you want to tinker with them, like the 750 or the Nanotechs. I think the motors are about $6, and the board itself was $32, and then this particular frame, the WISP, excuse me, 110. I believe that was running about $12. So 12, 32, we got 44. We got another $6, so $50, and $4 for the props. So, we're looking about $60, and then you add some sort of, hopefully, controller that you have around. You pair it up, and you've got a perfectly good flying quad that you can spend a lot of time with, honing in its settings, and you could then add FPV gear if you want to. I know that Sebidaki has got a tutorial on how to put together some micro FPV gear that costs around $31 from parts from Banggood and some soldering. I have opted to go with the gnarly FPV backpack. You can find him selling those in the RC Group's FPV gear for sale area, or you can just search for him. So that is on the way.
and I'm excited to do some FPVing with this thing within the house. I probably need to get it tuned a little better before I do it, but I think that's going to be a good time. Maybe I can fly behind one of the kids as well if they're working at a computer, and see what they're actually doing. I don't know. They'll probably notice the noise from the props. So that's what we've got. I hope I've been able to help someone or answer some questions. And happy flying. If you've got any comments, if you've got anything you want to contribute, leave it down in the description below. Hit the like button if you like this video, if it helped you in some way. Subscribe. I do make videos from time to time. I usually do something a little different than what you'll find on YouTube, and that's why I do it. As an IT person, I'm always looking to do something fun in my free time, and I'm always looking for solutions to problems. So hopefully what you find in my channel is a little bit different than what you'll find elsewhere. I don't tend to review products, so to speak, but if you have an interest in this and other sorts of projects, subscribe. That way you won't miss one, or come back and check often. All right. Thanks for tuning in.